ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Singh Army podcast, and we are discussing today Kisan rally from Punjab to Delhi. The farmers' agitation live as we speak is going on right now. So we have the whole Singh Army team here. Baji, please bring us all the listeners up to date. What is the situation in India as of now?
So recently the central government proposed 3 bills for Punjab farmers and they've come into law in the past month or so. And these 3 bills, what they actually do for Punjabi farmers and why there's an agitation in the first place, to understand this is important. So currently, when a farmer has his crop ready to harvest, there is a MSP, a minimum state value, that the government provides, meaning that if there's a bad harvest and something goes really bad, there's still some money that farmer could take home and kind of carry on his livelihood and survive. What this does is it's a move towards scrapping that and scrapping kind of government intervention and opening up the markets to private vendors. And this has happened in other countries before, and it's always been met with protest and disgust by the people. And the reason is, at first it seems like an appealing proposition that private companies can come and buy stock, buy things from small farmers, and it kind of gets them on the ladder to success. But in actual fact, what happens over time is private companies, usually government affiliated, just end up controlling the price, meaning they drive down the farmers' wages. And they get a lot less for their crop over time. So that's come into law now, and that's what the agitation is all about.
So is this the first time that has happened or been tried to introduce into Punjab?
Yes, yeah. So previously, I think there was a green revolution, and it's kind of off the back of that. So that's what spurred the state intervention, and scrapping that, it's gone back to this.
Wow. Okay. So at the moment, Baji, can you tell us what's the current situation in regards to the morcha, the protest? Where are we? What's going on?
So at the moment, so I'm keeping up with it on social media, as most of us are here in the UK. And from the moment, what we're seeing is the Punjabis, the Kisans of Punjab, of Haryana, of Ambala, have all been protesting in their local Jile to reverse these laws and take back control of their farming for over 2 months. And they've been peacefully protesting on the roads, organising petitions, writing letters, shutting down the roads of Punjab. But there's been no budge from the government. And so push comes to shove, they've had no other option but to start this Chalo Delhi Morcha, where they're travelling to Delhi to peacefully protest and put pressure on the central government to reverse these laws and give freedom of farming back to the people.
And when we're saying they, I mean, it's an incredible number. Roughly, how many are we talking?
Thousands. I mean, at least.
I've seen reports between 200 to 500,000. I've seen reports, and I've seen some amazing images on a roadside. Bibiyan, our elderly women, making prashad, making a langar for all those that are protesting. I've seen people sleeping on the sides. I've seen people sleeping on their tractors. And this is going to touch everyone, because everyone around the world, the whole Sikh diaspora, has got family in Punjab who is indirectly all going to be affected by this. If the value of all these crops come down in Punjab, it will bring poverty to Punjab, the whole state, whether you're a Kisan or not. So it's got huge implications. And there's people out there, by saying that, this is nothing to do with religion, it's nothing to do with culture, it's just simply people not happy about the rates, their job rates. How can we explain to people how big this is?
This is basically it. We're fighting for our right to live. We're fighting for our food. We're fighting for our incomes. We're fighting for our families. That's what they're doing. That's why on this morcha, compared to any other morcha, you've got old Bibia in their 80s, children young as 5 who are walking to Delhi. There's old Bajorg. You could see the trolley are full of everyone, and it's December. They're sleeping out in the cold, and it's forcing everyone to come together. And people are saying it's got nothing to do with Dharam. It's got everything to do with Dharam, because Dharam is about living. Dharam is about freedom for everyone. It's about everything. This is about our very lives in Punjab, owning our own farmland, owning our own right to earn an income our own way without being pushed into privatisation and without being pushed further into more farmer suicides or anything along those lines.
So who's leading this by you? Who's leading it? Who's kind of organising it? Who's making the decisions?
It seems like a joint effort. So the Kisan unions, the farm unions, have been on this issue for a long time. I think they've even consulted with the government not to put these bills as law. So they would be the kind of experts in the field. But more recently, we've seen kind of more Punjabi activists kind of take this issue and make it their own. And I think it's these people that have really made this morcha as big as you see as it is today, because they're Jaan Pashan Wali, like singers and actors and stuff. And they've kind of spearheaded this Chalo Dilli morcha basically.
And the journey, so started from Punjab, met with resistance, and then slowly as they're moving through the states, through the borders, there's been barricades, there's been digging up the floors. How has the journey been? What obstacles have been in the way?
So I think we've all seen things on social media where this has got violent, it's been met with force, and the Punjabis haven't backed down. I think there's a clip of one of the protesters, and I think the reporter's asking him, what are you guys doing here? And he simply says, he goes, this isn't Himachal, this isn't Haryana, this is Punjab. As in, if this is going to come from somewhere, it's going to come from here. And it's gone from Punjab, and it's been met at Haryana. And even the Haryana locals, because the actual bills affect everybody. It affects farming all around India, really, to some degree. Mostly Haryana, Himachal and Punjab. But it's interesting, and I think Abadi can go into more history, is why these things come from Punjab, and specifically Punjab and more so Sikhi, interrelated, that this is what spearheads the movement, right? Every time when there's an issue like this.
So to put that into perspective, what you're saying is that it does affect farming pretty much throughout the whole north of India, throughout whole India, but especially at the north. And once again, as it was under the British rule, as it was later on throughout Indian history, it's the Punjabis who are leading the battle, so to speak. So, Baji, tell us, a little bit about this spirit from within Punjab.
One video that I've seen that just sums the spirit up. There's an interviewer, and he interviews an old Mataji. She's 80 years old, and he goes, Mataji, tusi 80 saal de hai. You're 80 years old. What are you doing on this morcha? And she responds and says, you know what? It's only me and your bapu. It's only me and your father. Like, we have no children. We have no one else. And the interviewer says, Koi gal nahi, where are your children? And she responds, like the Sahibzad, they were my children. All of you are my children, and we're all going to Delhi to rally for this. And if anything happens, I will die before all of you. I will step forward and put my life on the line before anyone else. And she's a Buddhi, she's a Bujurg Mata. She's 80 years old, and she says, I'm all of your mother. I will die before all of you. And you know what? Mekafin ban ke aaya, where I've tied death around my neck, and death is in my choli. I'm ready to go. And she points to the other Bujurg Bibia, and she goes, if anything happens, these will bring my body back. And just seeing that makes you realize how real this morcha is. That people are really fighting for their livelihood, and it's Bibia, old Bibia, that are going. And I've seen other pictures where Bibia with bent backs that can hardly walk, marching all the way to Delhi. It means so much. Like, I can't remember the last time the Panthers got together. The people of Punjab, the people of India have all got together to fight and stand up for their freedoms like this against some, dirty laws and dirty, underhanded laws.
I mean, underhanded tactics. I seen the I can't remember which border it was at, but basically water cannons being fired on the Singhs and on all the Punjabis. And there's one chap who jumps across the trailers, and he actually he doesn't attack anyone, but all he does is he stops the water cannon. So people...
that's a warrior spirit. He's that was the chap was from Ambala. Forgot his name. I've got it written down somewhere. And that's a warrior spirit. He jumped on the water cannons to stop them firing into the old Bajoruk Punjabis that were driving the tractors and stuff like that, and he switches it off. And since then, he's had a murder case put on him, an attempted murder case for doing that saver of stopping water blasting into the other fellow Punjabis. And I don't know what they're playing at, firing water at protesters who are serving you longer, protesters who are coming, with such love and satkar, giving the police tea, and the same police are firing water cannons and beating them with sticks. And there's one video of them firing water cannon at a Singh, and he just stands there and takes it like a warrior, like a tiger. And when it switches off, you just see, a Guru Ka Singh, a Babbar Sher, ripped, yeah. He's wearing like a rash guard, he's ripped, and he just looks in the face of that Sarkar, and you could tell that they probably crapped it. And the way he just points, that this is Jajba. These are warriors come to take their hak of just to live and farm freely.
Buddy, what's the next so at the Delhi border right now? Okay, has central government, have they gave any indication of what's going to happen? Are they willing to negotiate? Are they willing to change anything? Where do we go from here?
I think time will tell. To be honest, is the honest answer in this at this moment. But I think some activists are engaging, or the government's now engaging. And remember, this is the same government that activists and Kisan unions have been trying to engage for the past months, even probably a year. And finally, because the Punjabis have reached Delhi, have smashed through the barricades, they're now willing to listen.
And I've seen a interesting a quote from somebody saying the sons of Punjab are fighting on the borders of India against various different countries, and within India their mothers and fathers they're being met violently for peacefully protesting. They're being met with violence, with lathi charges, with the water cannons, with various different things.
Yeah, look, you know what it is? Sikh Jajba is so big, and Sikh kind of compassion is so big, and I think sometimes as a Bant we get taken advantage of, and that's a great example. We've been fed by the Gori that you're a martial race, you're just here to fight stuff, you just like a good scrap, which to a certain extent we do, but not necessarily. We're not always scrapping just for other people's rights. And which was part of the Punjabi Suba and Anandpur Sahib Zamata Sanjal Singh ji. So these when they hear these kind of narratives, they want to shut it down. So they got no problem with us fighting on the border against China and being on the front line and taking fire from China. They got no problem with that. But when we start asking for our own rights, their own Bajorg start marching on the streets of Delhi, then it's an issue. It's always an issue when we start asking for our own rights, and this is nothing different. This is a Gora-handed tactic that we saw from the British Raj. Is feed them with this martial race stuff, and they'll fight for everybody. And soon as they start talking about their own hak, then we'll paint them as backwards, violent, terrorists, criminals, and that's exactly what's happening now.
Definitely, I mean, because if you look, when we were fighting for Indian independence. Okay, India held us as heroes, even though Sikhs made up such a small population of the country, between 1% and 2%, and how many of the people that were hanged, that were sent away to prison, that sacrificed, they were Sikhs, and we made up such a small population, and we were regarded as heroes. And then in the two world wars where we fought under the British flag, World War One and World War Two, and we were regarded as heroes. But now, as we did in '84, we're fighting for our own rights, and we're fighting for our own livelihoods, our own future. And now there's politicians, central government, Bollywood actors, actresses, MPs, various celebrities saying these people are terrorists, these people they're uneducated, they're backwards, simply because now we're fighting for our own rights. But when, like you said, we're fighting for other people's rights, then we're regarded as heroes.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, recently, do you remember the fight on the border
with China?
The Chinese, and mainly the Punjabis died in that. That went viral around India. Every Indian national sports star or Bollywood actor shared it, was on it. Modi himself was like, these are our shaheeds, these are Jawans from Punjab. And they were regarded as heroes by the same party that's also at the same time.
And that was less than 6 months ago.
That was less than 6 months ago. And this is the same party, like a nationalist party, in the BJP, which is trying to also enforce these bills. So at one point, we're good if we do stuff. ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਹਨਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਵਾਰਿਸ ਆ, ਇਹ ਡਰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਨਾ, ਇਹ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਮੁਗਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ. They like that narrative, especially the BJP. I'm talking the right-wing nationalist party. They like the fact that this is the Khalsa who stands up to everybody. They actually respect it to a certain extent, but the respect starts to diminish when we start talking about our own rights. And in the words of Sant Jarnail Singh, this was the whole problem in the first place, is we got their topi ajad, ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਹੋਂਗੇ.
And just on the topic of Sant Jarnail Singh Ji Khalsa Pindranwale, what similarities or is anything similar with what Sant Ji's kind of struggle was with the Anandpur Sahib resolution and our rights that they were asking for then? Is there any similarities with now?
Yeah, so some of the Anandpur Sahib Mata was asking for more autonomous rule for Punjab, where Punjab is allowed to make its own regulations. So now it's even more regulation. Not only is it being enforced by the state, it's actually being enforced by who the state deems as a private contractor or a private vendor. So we're even further from that among. First, it was just state regulation, central government, sorry, I should say, and we wanted our own regulation, as in Punjab's own local regulation. But then now we've got a step further than that, where there's private vendors that would also play in this market.
And I seen another video today, and it was of a Apna Bajurg Singh, maybe 70 plus, sitting on the back of a trolley, being pulled by a tractor, and he had the reporter was asking him various questions, and he was trying to push him down towards saying that, okay, so what will you do? What will you do? And you've seen that video. Tell all the viewers a little bit about that video.
Yeah, I think this is a video on the ground, but the cutting is from, I think, one of the state media channels. And I think this is interesting because what happens now, because the barricades have been smashed. It's not a Punjab issue. The Shambhu Morcha and the activists that have been doing that, they've been doing that for a month, maybe longer. Sorry, a couple of months maybe. So it's gone from that to to go to a march towards Delhi. They've smashed the barricades, so it's no longer just a Punjab Haryana situation. Now it's arrived in Delhi, and now it's interesting to see. Now it's in Delhi, right? Now it's kind of a statewide Indian national issue. How the national media are reporting it, and that particular cutting is interesting because the interview is someone on the ground of Bajorg, like you say. He says. In his judgment, he goes, if Modi doesn't listen, we'll wipe him out. And the reporter's pressing him, saying, yeah, but will you? And he goes, no problem. He goes, we went to London and he goes, we got no issue. Delhi's around the corner. We can do what we want. And I think the last bit that really stung him was at the end. He goes, yeah, Delhi's around the corner, like Indira Gandhi si matakti si. And already, so it kind of cuts, and it goes back to the reporter, yeah. So this is the Indian national news, and he's saying, look, this can't be the words of the Sikhs, the Punjabis that we know, the loyalist Indian nationals that we've respected all of our time since independence. This probably seems the language of foreigners. Most likely it's Pakistan and intelligence agencies that have planted moles in this movement. And again, it's already starting to become you know what, they're extremists. Already it's starting to become that, you know what, they're fueled by terror and the enemies of India. Because if you follow Indian politics, you'll know that the BJP and Modi, their kind of superstar leader, thrives on this fact that we are India, we are strong, we've got a ton of enemies, and I don't take any crap from them, right? I don't take any crap from China, I don't take any crap from Pakistan. You know, we are proud Indians. We're able to fight everybody off, right? So that's always their go-to. So if there's anything that they don't like, it's their go-to is it's a Pakistan problem. And I think something funny, but Sant Jarnail Singh Ji in their time, they were getting blamed for loads of things. And I think there's a speech, a bit of a funny moment in the speech, and Sandra Nelson goes, if someone's Maj dies, and it's been Rawal's fault.
Yeah.
And it's so it's that kind of narrative. They created this boogeyman of its intelligence agencies across the border, whereas the truth is very different. It's people whose livelihoods are
of course. I mean, as any kind of establishment would do, they're just trying their utmost to discredit, as they have done from 78 to 84 and onward. They're trying their utmost to discredit the movement.
And let it be clear. So what I'm not saying that this has nothing to do with our previous mortgage. This, in fact, it probably has everything to do with the mortgage that we've undergone. And similarities between Punjabi Suba, similarities between Anandpur Sahib resolution. It's tough because the government don't want to hear the synonymous word of Khalistan with this movement, because it's an all-encompassing movement. As you said, there's probably even communists there. There's probably people from other faiths.
There is. We've seen the various flags there.
Yeah. So they don't want to hear that, and they don't want to do that. But that's fine. However, and I think we can't really predict this, but it's already starting to be like, you give us what we want, which looks unlikely, or we want Punjab's independence. So Punjab's independence, whilst it might not be front and center of this conversation, it will definitely creep in, and it's starting to creep in. It's you and us already, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you and us is Punjab. Us is the people, the Varas of Guru's Punjab. Yeah. So it's already starting to become the Khalistan conversation, even if they don't want to. So
indirectly,
that will organically happen.
Now we've got such a, as we've been talking about, we've got such a, as Punjabi, such a rich history. And for all the people listening, tell us, is this the first time that the Punjabis have marched to Delhi?
No. We've taken Delhi in the past with Jathedar Baghel Singh, Jassa Singh, Ram Garya, Jassa Singh Ahluwalia. When the Mughals had Raj, the Singhs took Delhi then at will. And it's the same bloodline that have marched to Delhi right now. And when they took it in the past, they took it at will and left it at will. And it's that same bloodline and it's that same Jajba that they are marching to Delhi with. But then it was all the forge, and now it's different, because now it's the Bibiyan, it's the Bajorg, it's the children, it's everybody. So it's similar and it's different at the same time. But this is an historic moment, worldwide historic moment. We shared, there was a video that came out today where there was a English gentleman, I think he was American, speaking about how much this farmer standing up for themselves, this impact this has worldwide. And he was explaining in that video how life-changing and world-changing this is, and how people need to pay attention to them. And even Vice News and BBC News, everyone is paying attention to this, because it is such a world-changing thing that's happening, where the people are standing up for themselves to change things for the betterment of their lives.
And what we're saying is that it comes down to, indirectly it comes down to seek independence, yes, but what all we're requesting is basic rights. Basic rights that Sanjay Nelson ji Khalsa Pindrawali asked for, and we're back there again, just asking for basic rights, and like I said earlier, if this is to bankrupt the Kisans and the farmers, this will bankrupt Punjab. Yeah. Okay, and at the moment Punjab is a very affluent state. We get very little from the government. We're heavily taxed, probably one of the most taxed states in the whole of India, but we survive, we thrive, and there's just countless times that they just try again and again and again to suppress us. But as many leaders have seen before, we're people that can't be suppressed, we're people that can't be contained. And as time goes on, more and more tactics will be used. So you've touched on, some of the things that they'll say that they're linked to these countries, they're linked to that country, they're linked to these agencies. And going forward, they will try this more. They will try and discredit the movement more, because it's incredible momentum at the moment. The whole of not only Punjab, but many other states, and the whole Sikh diaspora around the world is in support We've got educated people everywhere. We've got MPs. We've got people in high parliamentary positions in a lot of countries around the world, and everyone is in support because it's our basic right. But without doubt, what do you think? What do you think will happen next? What do you think they'll try next? How do you think they'll try and discredit us next?
Typically, it seems like the Nationalist Party, the BJP, are learning from the tactics of the British government. The British tried something very similar with proposing the East India Company as the prominent one vendor for all crops in India. They did it with crops, they did it with textiles, they did it with loads of other industries, and they bankrupt India at the time, and really stuck it on the poor man, and exported those goods at the profit of the white British people. So if they're anything like them, which we know they are, it will probably be to divide and conquer. And I think that's where I think our brothers and sisters in Punjab need to be careful of, is to try and discredit a key figure in the movement, or to get in the ear of a key figure of this particular morcha, and kind of take it from there and see who sticks, see who twists.
And it is a very scary time. Like, we're all watching this from across the world, and no doubt there's people in America, Canada, all across Europe who are watching this, and who are, scared just as we are of what's going to happen next. We've already had one of our elders die on this morcha, and there's the potential to be others that lose their lives. So Bhai Tanna Singh Ji lost his life while en route to Delhi with his fellow farmers, trying to challenge them about this morcha, about the Kisan freedoms. And I'm scared that more will come, because we've been hit with water cannons, we've been beat with lattiyan, we've still landed at Delhi. What are they going to do next to us? And we need to think about what we can do as Kisans, as the children of Kisans in other countries, how we can rally together and show our brothers and sisters support over there, and what we can do here, like raising our voices here and through social media. We need to really come together and support each other and make sure, this rally and movement isn't discredited and there aren't no underhand tactics played.
I mean, we keep going back to it, but underhand tactics, to take it back to how this affects us. I mean, we're all out, whether it's America, Canada, England, Europe, New Zealand, Australia. We're all over the world because of the Kisans, whether it is in 70s, 60s, 70s or 80s, the breadbasket of India, and being able to basically fund us moving out and thriving within our own communities in other countries. But what they are trying to do now is silence us. So all of us that are outside of India, they're trying to silence us time and time again with the Facebook, with Instagram, which is where most people will share information, will share the struggle, will tell people about what's going on. Constantly Instagram removing the Sikh hashtag, and what they've done recently is, if you put in Sikh on Instagram, they're just filling it with the hashtag Sikh, filling it with pornography, and then tomorrow they'll remove it again, and then they're just, Facebook are doing exactly the same. They're going through mass censorship, deciding what we can and can't post about.
That's crazy.
It's really underhand tactics there on social media. Just basic things we're writing, just putting the plight of the morcha, of the protesters, just showing what they're doing, where they're going, and pictures and videos of, like we keep reiterating in this program, of our elders and their spirit, and why they're going to this actual morcha. And Facebook, Instagram constantly deleting it. So how do we work around this?
So no, I think that's something that we need to take seriously here, the Sikh diaspora in the UK and beyond, because whilst our impact on the ground is somewhat limited, that's something that we can do. So this has happened time and time again. It's happened with other political ideologies as well, where they've kind of censored certain hashtags or certain phrases on Twitter and stuff like that. So it has happened before, and those communities or those ideologies have tried to fight it and actually overcame it. So it's something that we actually need to really start thinking about, is how we can challenge these big tech companies to make sure our message is still getting out. It seems strange, because when it suits them, then everything's allowed. So do you remember the Arab Spring? Some years ago, that was literally broadcast live on the toppling of dictators. They broadcasted it live on Facebook, and they didn't have a problem with it at the time. So when it suits them, and it's in their kind of narrative, it's okay. When it isn't, it's censorship.
Of course, and censorship is a slightly different topic, but not that far. Is Free Juggy Johal. Free Juggy page, which on Instagram, all that page does is update on the actual court appearances. So Juggy attended court today and this happened. Nothing else, nothing against anyone. It just basically is a fact file on what's going on with Juggy. And Instagram, no warning, no email, nothing, just delete that page.
But that again, right? What does that show? So Sikh pages, specifically Khalistani pages, are getting censored at the same time Kisan Morcha is going on in India. So the two are synonymous, aren't they? So whilst we're saying this is a Kisan issue, that's a Khalistan issue, that's an 84 issue, that's Juggy's issue and stuff like that, they are all related. This is Punjab versus all. And it kind of shows with all the underhanded tactics that are being played. They're being played specifically against the Sikh Panth and specifically against the Panthak kind of communities and leaders.
And the tactics have been played, and more will be played. And so what we've got to do is have an undying trust in each other and in our people and in the Kisans that are at the Morcha, because no doubt coming forward and in the future, in the next week, in the next month, there will be further rumours about people who are leading the Morcha, having their own interests at heart, selling out. And I really think that they're going to play something so underhand that there'll be crimes committed within the Kisans, Kisan on Kisan violence to spread and divide and conquer the Morcha and break it that way. So what we've got to do is just have an undying trust in us, and that we stand strong together no matter what media says, no matter what comes out. We've got to believe in ourselves.
Yeah, and that's of course, again, Khalistan movement is something that we've seen time and time again. At the minute, I think there's been stories of the Kisans have gone to like a dabba and someone's paid for them all, or someone's fed them for free. People are welcoming them in. They passed, I think, the Muslim areas, and the Musliman have come out and fed them and stuff like that. So at the minute, they are the pride and joy of the people, as were the Kharkous, as they will be in our hearts, but as they were on the streets of Punjab. And it's kind of that discredit tactics, slowly, which will kind of turn the normal public. I think it's a Che Guevara thing, is once the normal public stops trusting you, then your movement's dead, because then you're as good as the oppressor. So if you're sitting at home, so the normal people that aren't on the streets, let's say, it's them and it's the government. Now, if there's something to discredit you, then in their eyes you're just as bad as them, right? So it's a really easy tactic that governments have used to discredit legitimate movements, is to kind of plan and is to kind of push it as what we said is terrorism or rioting, or just violent fanatics that just want to go and just bash things up. And whilst that's totally justified, considering they're about to die because they're not about to have food, a smashed window is not going to do anybody. People are trying to change the world over here. I know someone smashed a window isn't going to be the be all and end all of life, but that's a Sarkari tactic that's kind of tried and tested and it's worked time and time again. And
you see, they try and say we're of a certain character, but you can see our character. You've seen a lathi charge, and rightly or wrongly, people will feel indifferently about this. Just after the lathi charge, you can see a picture. All these images are available on the internet, Google. I don't know if Facebook still got them up, but everywhere else will still have them up, of a Singh actually giving water to a police officer. And then later on, further on down the rally, you'll see maybe 50-60 police officers all sat down, all having Guru Ka Langar. So the Singhs are shikaying Langar because they've been standing on that border, on the state border for all day, and the Singhs are shikaying Langar. And rightly or wrongly, that's our spirit. That's our compassion. That's our way of life.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? Revolutions are born out of love. I think that's Che Guevara as well. And Santan Nel Singh Ji, ironically, said something to that extent. Do you know, these kind of things happen out of Bhavna. And what's happening, whether, like you said, rightly or wrongly, it's happening out of Bhavna for Sikhi. So whoever's involved, if their Bhavna is towards, Dharam, for us Sikhi or whatever, things will always prevail. So Baji talked about Baghel Singh taking Delhi. Baghel Singh took Delhi, and when he did, they smashed all the Sarkari Khajana. They looted all of the Mughal wealth, and they built the Gurdwara Bangla Sahib, and the historic Gurdwara that stand in Delhi now. Not only that, but they put tax on the whole of Delhi, like a heavy tax, and that would fund the langar at Bangla Sahib. So in a way, they taxed the businesses to then feed them into the langar. So that's kind of Sikhi, and as long as our Bhavana doesn't go anywhere, there's no power on earth that can kind of subdue us. So Baghel Singh, just to give this is somebody of that caliber who smashed the Mughal headquarters to pieces. Like Baji said, left it and came back because he was that confident that even when he's gone, no one has the just to rise up against him. Would go and do, I think the Faujan would go and do Diwali, Bandi Shora, they would go to the Bar Sahib and come back. They were that confident that no one's going to mess with Delhi, even though it's somewhere that's
unattended.
It's unattended, and it's been something that's been fought over for hundreds and hundreds of years. And a story about Baghel Singh, kind of, which tells you the character and bhavna of someone like that, of our Sikh journals in whose footsteps we're following in, is when Baghel Singh went to Delhi, he wanted to build the Gurdwara Seesganj Sahib. And he basically put out a statement, very similar story, but with Maharaja Ranjit Singh as well, when he said, has there anybody that's been done darshan of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and someone showed up and ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਚਾਦਨੀ ਪੈ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ. Similarly, Baghel Singh said, was there anybody that saw or heard or knows anything of the Shahidi of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji? And a really, really Bajorg Bibi came, and she goes, I was a little girl and I was there, and this is where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji gave Shahidi. And what she said, she goes, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's cease came off, me and my family got the seva. What we did is we washed the floor and we kept the Guru Sahib's corn, basically. And Baghel Singh was so moved by that the Sarkari Khajana that he lotted, gold, rubies, diamonds, he ordered all the things to put in a house. And he goes, this is someone that's seen it all, and so it was that level of bhavna to be close to the Guru. And like I said, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, very similar. Has anybody seen Guru Gobind Singh Ji? And there's somebody that said, once I've done darshan of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And I think he wiped his feet with his dada. Guru Gobind Singh in the darshan kite. So whilst caliber of leadership is somewhat a different issue, and it's a it's a different issue altogether.
Yeah, completely.
If we aspire to that level of bhavna, that undying, unresolving faith in what we believe in, then there's no morcha. That's
what we're seeing. We're seeing pensioners, 65, 70-year-old plus, in their thousands, walking, a lot of them by foot, or at best on a trolley on the back of a tractor, for days on end, walking on the back of a trolley, marching, going through lathi charges, going through barricades, going through when they're digging up roads, going through concrete blocks, for the love of Punjab, for the love of the brothers and sisters and the community. And that's what we're seeing. We are seeing that kind of bhavana, because they're sleeping on the tractors, they're sleeping on the floors, and it's been days on end, and it's not going to finish anytime soon. So it is an amazing show of love for what they feel passionately about.
And it is built on pyar. They're sleeping out there in the freezing cold, and it's just as cold as it is here. It's just as cold there, and they're sleeping out in the cold. And there's images of Bajorg sitting on the roads, sitting in the back of their traliya, reading Sukhmani Sahib, doing their nitnem. There's pictures of Singhs serving langar, making prashad. There was one video I saw today of Nyang Singh walking bade pyar naal, walking with such love, and he got shot in the face with a gas canister, and it shows just under his cheek his face is ripped, and he's bleeding, but he's still saying, "Come on, Faujo," to the Nojawan, "let's walk forward." And at that point, someone says to him, "Should we stop you and put you to the side?" And he goes, "No, there's nothing to the side. What we need to do is in front of us." And he's putting his health aside to step forward and help. And he's a Bajurg. And some of these Bajurg are going to go to Delhi and they might never come back. And in such old age to do a morcha, they're doing it for the benefit and the future of Punjab. It's not selfish, it's about themselves. It's not about themselves, it's about the world. It's about the children and about Punjab that's going to come after us. It's about our home.
It just goes to show that, you know, the government have been planning for a long time, how can we subdue these movements? And there's many reasons that they have pumped Punjab full of drugs. We've done a whole podcast on it. The last podcast we did is filling Punjab with drugs. So all these youth, they don't ask for their rights. They don't march to Delhi. They're too busy at home or in an alley in Punjab somewhere trying to get high. That's been their tactic for the last 30 years plus. You know, filling Punjab with an unbelievable amount of drugs over the border. And all I can say is, brothers and sisters of Punjab, you guys are on the ground. This movement will come from you, and all the Sikh diaspora around the world. Punjab will always be our home, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years down the line, wherever we're living in the world, Punjab will always be home. So always keep in contact with what's going on in Punjab. Always do what you can, whether that's social media, whether that's letter, whether you've got a post in a government role or in a MP or a councillor, anything, any way you can help. Never forget your roots. Never forget Punjab. And
there's one thing that we can all do and that we should do while we're posting about it, tweeting about it, sending pictures, WhatsApp messages, talking to our families, finding out. We can all sit together and do ardas with Guru Sahib, but help these people. They're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for the future of Punjab. They're doing it for our home. You know, do ardas, do Chaupai Sahib de Part, do Chandi Diwar, do everything you can, do Sukhmani Sahib, and do ardas extra for those who are risking everything, going to Delhi, not knowing if they're going to come back. Everyone, please, you know what? Just everyone, please, just, you know what? Do ardas for our mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, sons, daughters, brothers and sisters who are out there, feet on the ground.
There was a big appeal today for everyone to do Chaupai Sahib for the welfare and for the success of this morcha to Delhi. So like Baji said, the very least we can do is pray. And to all those that are there protesting and demanding rights for all of us, not just those living there, but this affects all of us, all the Sikh diaspora. You are heroes, you are inspiration, and you know, we hope in years to come that we can serve the community as you guys have. So a big thank you to all the guests today. Any final thoughts?
No, that's it. Let's keep on top of this issue. Let's keep following it. And I guess once we know more, then I guess we'll reconvene this, right? And
sure.
And get more experts in.
Yep.
And that's it. Just to keep active, you know, never give up faith, and just do that ardas. Maharaj kripa rakhe.
Okay, once again, thank you all. Singh Army Podcast. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Khalsa,
Waheguru Ji Ki
Waheguru Ji Ki
Fateh.
Fateh.